Hi, welcome to Buffzone. My name is Kyle Ringo. This is Ryan Thorburn. We cover the Colorado Athletic Department for the Daily Camera newspaper. And the Colorado Buffaloes are traveling to Columbus, Ohio this week to take on the Buckeyes. Ryan, the Buffs haven't won a road game in forever now. October 27th, 2007. The Buckeyes have lost 5 times in their home stadium since the beginning of the 2002 season. It doesn't set up real well this week for the Buffs. What do they got to do to win?
Well, no better place to end the road streak than in front of 108,000 people. That would be quite a story. But I think one encouraging thing about CU football this year is they've seemed to be improving week to week. Hawaii, they got off to a bad start, had one good quarter, and really failed to win that game that they had circled. Cal, they played a really good game, just didn't make quite enough plays in crunch time to pull that one out. CSU, another slow start, but they really dominated in the fourth quarter and had the second longest drive in program history. I like what I'm seeing with Paul Richardson exploding in the first 2 weeks. Defense is focusing on him, and then all of a sudden you get Tony Clemens, Kyle Cephalo, and the running game involved. So I think they're evolving, and that's a good sign. And I don't know whether it's good news or bad news to catch Ohio State the week they're out of the polls for the first time in 7 years.
Yeah, that's a bad idea. One thing Coach Embry talked about this week when he met with the media was getting off to slow starts has been plaguing his team so far, and the Buffs really need to get off to a better start this week on the road. That seems obvious, but on the road at a place like Ohio State, it's imperative that the Buffs don't get behind by 10 points or more the way they have in a couple of these first 3 games here. It's been a variety of different things that have led to the Buffs' slow starts, but it's offensive in nature. They're just not scoring enough points in the first half of games. On the flip side of that, they've been a great second half team. Whatever the coaches are doing at halftime, they're making the right adjustments, and the Buffs are definitely a much more competitive team. They came back, 16-6 at halftime against Cal, I think, and they were down 17-0 against Hawaii. They gave themselves a chance to win both of those games, and so they're making the right adjustments as the game goes along, but they need to get off to a better start and give themselves a chance to win on the road.
Well, hopefully at that post-game hug at Sports Authority Field, Steve Fairchild was giving John Embry tips on how to script the opening drive, and maybe John was passing along some halftime adjustments. But, CU does script their opening drive. It hasn't worked yet. I think that would help to get off to a good start in the first quarter. I don't think it was as big a deal the previous 3 games, but this game, when you have 108,000 people, you make a couple mistakes, all of a sudden the momentum is magnified. It's kind of how the staff feels about it. So I think that's the key to the game. Are the Buffs in the game at halftime?
Yeah, the Buffs, when it comes to falling behind on the road, the Buffs just consistently find ways to shoot themselves in the foot, and their offensive line problems haven't helped them so far early in the early going this year, and they get a boost there this week in getting their best offensive lineman back. David Bakhtiari is supposed to start the game at left tackle, so that'll be helpful. It's kind of questionable whether Daniel Munyer, the redshirt freshman center who started all 3 games, will play in this game. If not, they'll get Gus Handler in there. He's played in all 3 games too. So they're starting to get a little bit more healthy on their offensive line, it looks like, and that'll definitely help. They're facing an Ohio State team here who lost at Miami this past weekend, and then the game before that against Toledo, the Buckeyes were a little bit shaky. And this is a program, obviously, that has some quarterback issues, trying to replace Terrell Pryor, who left in the offseason after he was ruled ineligible for a few games this year, taking impermissible benefits and whatnot with that whole scandal that cost Jim Tressel his job. And what do you expect to see from the Buckeyes this week?
Well, I expect them to play with a lot of passion. I think the Buffs would be in a great position if the Buckeyes were undefeated and had pulled out that game at Miami. I think the suspensions and just the whole dark cloud hanging over the Buckeyes, losing their coach and 6 really good players, is starting to catch up with them a little bit. They're just trying to tread water and get to, into the meat of their Big Ten schedule unscathed, but they've already been humiliated in Miami. So it's a tough spot for the Buffs, but I think Ohio State's a little bit vulnerable, and with this being a brick game for CU and just so determined in this road losing streak, I think they're going to be in the game.
Okay, so you think they're going to be in the game. Do they win the game? I have consistently said with road games, except for the Hawaii game to start the year, over the past year, anytime the Buffs have gone on the road, I've picked against them because, this road losing streak has just gotten to be ridiculous. And I've said until the Buffs prove that they can win a road game, I can't pick them because it's 18 straight now. It's October 27th of 2007 was the last time they won on the road, and how can you pick them to win any game on the road at this point, much less a game in which they're going into a huge stadium against a storied program that had been in the top 25 for 7 consecutive years until this week and hasn't lost many home games, lost 5 times in their home stadium since 2002. So I can't pick the Buffs. You make the case for the Buffs.
I cannot pick the Buffs. I covered the basketball losing streak on the road, which spanned from Ricardo Patton deep into Jeff Bzdelik's tenure. And they finally won at Nebraska, which was not really a rival like in football, but a team that they usually play even games with and that was a little bit down near the end of the season. I see the same thing happening with John Embry. I think this road streak will end at UCLA later in the year, given the way the Bruins are playing and their likelihood to maybe quit on the coach if it looks like he's going to be out. So I think it'll happen this year, but not this Saturday. I like Ohio State to win 24-17.
24-17. That's a little bit closer than I would expect it to be. I think this game might get away from the Buffs a little bit, particularly late. Maybe a turnover, which the Buffs have been really good at taking care of the ball. But I'll go with Ohio State winning this one 31-14. Come back next week and we'll talk about the results and we'll look ahead to the Pac-12 opener here at home against Washington State.